He'd never heard a wolf anywhere on this mountain before, let alone one that sounded the way this one did. It was more like a shriek or a cry, one that was angry and fierce. The very sound of it sent a bolt of panic through Ryland's chest, causing him to sit up the moment the sound hit his ears. He stood up and got out of bed before walking over to his window. He couldn't see anything, there was only moonlight to illuminate Borderscombe Forest, and even then, only the pointy peaks of the pine trees were visible in the darkness. Rylan was still for a moment or two before he was truly content that the silence of the night had returned. He turned back towards his bed before he heard it again. So loud, so harsh, so different. Without thinking, he spun around and closed the window. What the hell? He thought, as he realized he was trembling. Dear gods, maybe the story those damn farmers were telling got to me. He closed his eyes and slowed his breathing, calming his nerves and relaxing his body. Stories, just stories. He walked over and got back into bed. I've got work to do in the morning. Maybe if I give Banan more wood, he'll give me more. His thoughts trailed off as he drifted further into sleep. He awoke to the sunlight beaming through his closed window, the cold of the night still lingering in his room. Wasting no time, he hopped out of bed and walked over to his window. Looking out over the near-endless forest that covered the nearby hills and mountains, nothing looked more untouched, more peaceful. He smiled and chuckled. What such tales can do to a man's mind, he thought. And so he went on with the rest of his day. From sunrise to sunset he chopped down wood and hauled it onto his cart, taking time to feed both himself and Sawdust, of course. Once the sky was again reddened by dusk, he retired back to his home and had his supper. When he went to sleep that night, he opened his window to let the air in as he had done before. However, for what felt like an hour, he simply lied there, waiting for it. The same dreadful sound he had heard the night prior. But the sound never came. This went on for the rest of the week before Ryland's trip back into Borderscombe was once again at hand. The journey down the mountain seemed longer this time, as he had packed Sawdust's cart with far more wood than she was used to. Come on, girl, he said to her softly as they made their way forward. You can do it, only a little bit longer, come on. Soon they were there, at the gates of the hamlet, only this time as they approached, the guards didn't smile as his cart got closer to the gate. They looked at him, but there was no nod, no wave, only stares from each of them. Cold stares. Rylan paid no mind and continued into the hamlet. It was a lot busier today, as Rylan realized he had carted into Borderscombe on a market day. Stalls of all types with people from all over the west were peddling their wares, bellowing out into the streets about their goods. It was unusual for Rylan to come into town during a market, but that wasn't the strangest thing about his trip through the streets. It was the way some of the people stared at him, not unlike the vacant, distant looks he got from the guards as he arrived. Once was odd, but twice, 3 times, 4 times? Even Rylan found it hard not to dwell on it. He looked ahead. I'm here to do a job, he thought. That's all. He made it to the trading company and went inside, where it was more so business as usual. His nightmare-giving farmer friends were nowhere to be seen, but everything else seemed to be just as it had been a week ago. He walked over to the open door of Banan and knocked on the doorframe. Banan? The trader looked up from his work. Oh, hello, Rylan, he said, not nearly as jovially as last time. Here with your pine again? Aye, Rylan said as he walked further into Banan's office. Twice the shipment this time. I was hoping that maybe I could get some more gold for it. Were you now? Banan asked, seemingly to himself. He then closed a large book in front of him and pushed it aside. Sit down, lad. He gestured to the seat across from him. A hint of trepidation in his step, Rylan went and sat down. Banan placed his hands together and looked at Rylan, a heaviness over his brow. Things have been different over this past week. Different? Different how? Banan's eyebrows went up, almost as if he didn't expect the question, before the weight to his brow quickly returned. Do you know the Emmons by any chance? Rylan stuttered, caught off guard by the question. The local jewellers? Banan nodded. Not very well. May have passed by their stall on my way here, I guess. Why? Banan just looked at him for a moment before his eyes drifted down to his desk. Here's the thing, Rylan. He sighed and looked back up. I've sort of found a new woodsman. What? Rylan clenched his hands into fists. What the hell are you talking about? Banan sat back and put his hands on his desk. Someone closer, someone cheaper, and someone more in the know. Rylan just blinked at him. In the know? What the hell is that supposed to mean? It means someone who's got their... He wiggled his hands either side of his head, as if he was wrestling his mind for the right words. Look. He placed his arms firmly onto his desk. How about this? I pay you for your haul this week. Double what I gave you last time. After that, our business is concluded. But, Rylan looked down at his hands. I've been trading here for almost 7 years. What am I going to do? I'm sorry, Rylan, Bainan said, but this is something I have to do. Rylan looked back up and glared daggers at the trader, his breath practically thundering out of his nostrils. It was at that moment he saw something in Bainan's eyes he had never seen before. It was just a glint, but it was distinct. It was fear. Rylan took a breath and calmed himself. Just have my money ready by my cart. He pointed at Bainan. And be quick about it. I don't want to hang around where I'm not welcome. Bainan nodded. So be it. You'll get your coin, Rylan, you have my word. Rylan sneered and got up, wasting no time getting out of the building. Upon exiting the trading centre, his ears were quickly met by the sounds of running, rambling, and screaming. He turned to see that a large group of people had all swarmed one of the nearby stalls. His curiosity piqued. Rylan quickly paced over to the commotion where he was just able to get a glimpse of what was causing the disturbance over the many shoulders of the people in front of him. His blood ran cold. In the arms of a man whose face was red and whose eyes were streaming with tears was the small bloodied body of a young girl.